Welcome to this C# tutorial where today we'll be talking about comments. So here's what we'll be talking about. We'll be discussing what comments are, and we will also talk about the uses of comments and why they are important. And we're also going to go through a simple exercise that is going to reinforce the uses of comments and their importance. So now, what are comments? Simply, comments are statements in code that serve as notes or annotations. So if you want to write a note for yourself or a note to someone else who's going to be reading your code in the future, or someone who you are working with and they just want to understand why this part of the code is there. So writing a little bit of a comment or a little bit of a statement there that shows, oh, this code does this. That's what comments are for. And another thing is that comments are not compiled, which means they are not actually part of the code. They are actually for humans. They are not for computers. Computers don't need comments because they already understand we need comments. Sometimes we forget why we wrote a certain section of a code, and sometimes when you're reading someone else's code, you might not understand why that part is there. So having comments is really good for humans, but not for computers. So it's one of the reasons why it's not compiled. And they are important for collaborative programming. As I said, if you are working with other people in projects, let's say big projects, writing comments for especially complicated parts of code, it's very useful for other people to not try to figure out what you were trying to do with your code. So by just having that annotation saying this code is supposed to, let's say, add 2 numbers, so someone knows that this part of the code is adding 2 numbers without actually reading code or trying to understand the logic behind it. So that's what comments basically are. And now let's see how we're going to use comments in Visual Studio, like writing our own programs. Now let's jump right in. Right, so I've created this console project and I've named it comments. If you're new to this channel and you don't know how to create this console project, I created a video on how to actually create this console project. So there's a video that I will link down in the description, or it should appear somewhere on the screen. So you can watch the video before you come to this one, before we talk about comments. Now, let's see how comments look like. So to demonstrate what comments are, or to show what comments are in C#, we use 2 / for single line comments. So in this case, this is a single line comment. So if you are commenting just a single line, you just use 2 /. So the program or the computer will not recognize this. This is just for humans. This is a single line comment. And if we are to recap on what we did in the last video, let's say we have console.write line and say hello world inside. So we know that we're also supposed to have console read line under console write line so that the program can actually stop for us to read the text that we have on the screen. So in other words, if you are trying to comment this part of the code, you can say the line below prints hello world, right? So you are actually telling yourself or you're telling someone else that this line in code in line 15 is supposed to print hello world onto the screen. So you can also comment this line below waits for us to see what is printed. So this is just an official way of using the read line, but yeah, so it just waits for us to maybe click the enter key or just wait for us to see what is written on the screen. So we have 2 comments, 2 line comments, right? So let's say you wanted to comment 2 lines, but you don't want to have 2 / like this is another line comment. Let's say line comment. Let's say you also have another line like this is the 3rd line comment. This can get a bit tiring if you always have to write these /. So another way in C# that we can comment code that is not a single line, we can use the following. So to comment multiple lines in C#, you use 1 / and then an asterisk, and then so you write your comment after that. So you're just going to say this is a multi-line comment. So you see, what is happening is C# now knows that anything below or after that becomes a comment. So we need to close this with an asterisk, or let's write something else. Let's say something else. And to close comment, we're also going to write asterisk and a forward slash. So what it did is it commented only this section of the code, and console write line hello world is now still in computer memory. So this is a multi-line comment, and then we have also something else. So if you wanted, you can also extend this to be like this. Doesn't matter. We know that we now have a way to comment multiple lines in C#, right? So now let's discuss why commenting is very important. Of course, I did mention that, okay, it's good for collaborative programming and as a note to self. But to add another point is what we call pseudocode, right? So comments aren't only best for noting or for annotating code, but they are also very important as pseudocode. So what is pseudocode? Pseudocode is actually just code that is not finished. It's like a prototype. If you know what a prototype is, that's what pseudocode is. So you're actually not finished writing the code, but you already have the plan for the code. So that is what pseudocode is. So to understand what pseudocode is, I'm going to come up with an exercise that we're going to use to understand pseudocode. Let's say I gave you this question where I say, write a console program that you are going to use to introduce yourself. So in the program, state your name, your native language, your favorite game, your favorite subject in high school. All the information should be printed to the console or terminal window. So the first approach that you're going to do this is by creating a console.write line, console.write line, console.write line. So I am going to do that with you. So now let's do that real quick. We're going to have console.write line. The first section of the question says we should state your name. So in this case, I'm going to say, hi, my name is Nsolo. And it also says state your native language. So I'm also going to create another console.write line and say my native language. And my native language is Xitsonga. And my favorite game, I'm also going to write. And my favorite subject in high school. So we have 4 statements like this: console.write line, my name, and then my native language, my favorite game, and my favorite subject. So this is the simpler way of writing it. But what if I said write this in pseudocode? In other words, without actually having the actual code, but having comments to explain what you're going to write as code. So as a pseudocode, before even writing the code itself, you are going to say, okay, in the program state your name. So you're going to say, I can say this code prints my name, and then under the comment you're going to write the code that is going to print your name. And in the second comment you're going to say this code prints my native language. And the third line you're going to say this code prints my favorite game. And the last comment, you're going to say this code prints my favorite subject in high school, right? So this we call pseudocode because there is no code yet. But when I read this, let's say I was tired to code last night and I only have comments as my pseudocode. I'm going to read this and say, oh, it means I need code that is going to print my name below this comment. And I also need code that is going to print my native language below this comment, and so forth. So this is pseudocode. Now, this is it for comments. Now, let's recap what we did. We said comments are statements in code that serve as notes or annotations, and it's also important for other people who are reading your code. We use double forward slash for single line comments, or forward slash and asterisks for multiple line comments. They are not compiled, which means they are not recognized as code and they do not take up computer memory, and they can be used as pseudocode. See you in the next one.